Team USA practice was supposed to be quiet, controlled, professional. Instead, it detonated. Whispers turned into tension. Tension turned into panic. And panic turned into something nobody inside that gym could ignore. This wasn't just another camp. This was the moment reputations cracked, egos collided, and careers started shaking in real time. Coaches stopped yelling. Players stopped talking. Eyes followed one person. Because when Caitlin Clark touched the ball, the air changed, drills fell apart. Defensive rotations broke. Veterans who never flinched started hesitating. Every shot felt heavier. Every possession felt like Judgment Day. Social media had no footage yet, but the story was already writing itself inside that building. Team USA wasn't just testing lineups. It was testing nerves, and then it went wrong. Really wrong. Bodies' language shifted. A star slammed a chair. Another player stared at the floor like she'd just seen her future collapse. Angel Reese stood rigid, jaw tight, watching the rhythm disappear. This wasn't rivalry hype anymore. This was hierarchy forming in front of everyone. That's when the unexpected happened. Caitlin Clark didn't celebrate. She didn't talk trash. She didn't even look at the scoreboard. She stopped the drill. No whistle. No coach. Just presence. One step forward, calm but heavy, like someone about to say the thing everyone's afraid to hear. Teammates froze. Assistants exchanged looks. Because whatever she was about to do wasn't basketball, it was leadership, or destruction. And by the time the gym went silent, Team USA would never feel beef for that moment. Before the silence swallowed the gym, the tension had been building for years. Long before Team USA camp, long before this practice spiraled out of control. Caitlin Clark didn't arrive here by accident. She arrived carrying weight most players never survive. Every logo 3, every sold-out arena, every viral clip had turned her into more than a player. She was a symbol, and symbols attract pressure, jealousy, and quiet resentment that never shows up in box scores. From college to the pros, Caitlin had lived inside contradiction. Loved by millions, questioned by peers, praised publicly, doubted privately. Coaches praised her range, then whispered about fit. Executives sold her jersey, then hesitated to build around her. Every step forward came with someone waiting for her to fail, because her success rewrote pecking orders that had existed for decades. Angel Reese knew that feeling too. But from the opposite side of the storm, she had fought for everything: physical dominance, relentless effort, a game built on grit instead of glamour. She heard the debates every day: skill versus impact, numbers versus toughness. Caitlin's name always first. Angel's always compared, always questioned, and every comparison added fuel, not respect. Paige Buchers carried her own scars. Injuries stole time, momentum, headlines. Every comeback came with doubt about whether she'd ever be the same. She watched narratives shift without her permission, felt the spotlight drift, then snapped back the moment she returned. Quiet pressure, silent expectations. Team USA camp brought all of it into one room. Different journeys, same dream, 12 roster spots, zero patience. Coaches said competition, but players heard survival. Every drill felt like an audition. Every miss felt permanent. Every make felt political. And beneath it all sat league pressure, marketing pressure, Olympic pressure. This wasn't just about basketball excellence. It was about faces, branding, future contracts, endorsements, legacy. Everyone knew it, even if nobody said it out loud, especially Caitlin. She'd been told her whole life to lead by example, to let her game speak, to stay quiet, to keep her head down while the noise raged. And for years, she did exactly that. She absorbed it, smiled through it, let shots answer questions. But Team USA camp stripped away the buffer. No fans, no cameras, just peers, watching closely, measuring her in ways the public never could. Angel felt it too. That invisible scoreboard, that unspoken ranking forming in real time. Every possession Caitlin controlled felt like space disappearing. Not malicious, not intentional, just inevitable. And inevitability is terrifying when your career depends on relevance. By day 3, the energy wasn't competitive anymore. It was emotional. Players weren't just guarding space, they were guarding identity. And Caitlin felt the shift before anyone else did. She saw shoulders slump, heard breaths get heavier, felt the room tighten every time the ball found her hands. This wasn't the pressure she knew. This was something darker, something personal. And standing there, sweat dripping, gym buzzing with unspoken tension, Caitlin realized something nobody else had yet. If she kept playing the same way, this team wouldn't break records, it would break itself. And that realization is exactly what led to what happened next. The moment everything snapped didn't come with a whistle. It came with a look. A sharp, unmistakable look that passed through the gym like electricity when Caitlin Clark crossed half court and didn't slow down. Day 3 of Team USA practice was supposed to separate contenders from pretenders. Instead, it exposed fractures nobody wanted exposed. The drill restarted, and Caitlin didn't ask for the ball. She took it. 1 dribble. 2. Defender pressed up. Too close. Almost desperate. Bad choice. She stepped back from a distance nobody else in the gym would even consider. Logo range. The net barely moved. No celebration. No reaction. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes professionals uncomfortable. The coaches let it continue. That was the mistake. Next possession. Same thing. Different defender. Same result. Another logo 3. This time, a few players on the sideline stopped moving. Water bottles stayed unopened. Conversations died mid-sentence. This wasn't competition anymore. This felt like an execution, and everyone knew it. Angel Reese checked back in, jaw tight, shoulders squared. She wasn't going to watch her space disappear without a fight. She demanded the ball inside, played through contact, scored hard, yelled loud enough to remind the gym she was still there. For a split second, momentum shifted. For a split second, it felt like balance might return. Then Caitlin responded. Not with trash talk, not with emotion, with control. She brought the ball up slower this time, read the floor like a chessboard, drew 2 defenders, kicked it out, relocated, got it back, and pulled from so deep it felt disrespectful. Swish, the sound echoed. That's when the first player walked off the court. Not injured, not angry, overwhelmed. It happened fast after that. One stepped out of the drill, then another, then another. Coaches noticed. They didn't stop it. They wanted to see who stayed, who cracked, who could survive when the pressure stopped being theoretical and started being real. Angel stayed. She barked. She pushed. She tried to drag the fight back into the room. We running or we watching? Her voice cut through the gym. It wasn't aimed at Caitlin. It was aimed at the moment, at the fear creeping in, at the realization forming in everyone's mind that something was going very wrong. Caitlin heard it. She looked at Angel. No smirk, no challenge, just acknowledgement. Then she did something that changed everything. She didn't shoot. Next possession, she drove hard, pulled the defense with her, and dished a perfect pass to a teammate who hadn't touched the ball in minutes. Easy bucket. Then, another pass. Then another. The pace shifted, but the pressure didn't disappear. It multiplied. That's when the whispers started. On the bench, near the coaches, among staff. This wasn't just dominance. This was influence. Control. Caitlin wasn't just breaking defenders. She was dictating who existed on the floor and who faded into the background. Paige Buchers checked in next, and the gym stiffened again. Everyone knew this matchup. Everyone had waited for it. Caitlin versus Paige. 2 futures colliding. Paige answered immediately, slicing through the defense, finishing soft at the rim. Relief washed over the room. Proof that Caitlin wasn't untouchable. Caitlin answered back by setting up 2 teammates for easy scores, then burying another deep 3 without hesitation. Paige contested perfectly. Didn't matter. The shot dropped anyway. That's when the real shock hit. A coach muttered, barely audible but caught by the wrong ears. This is getting uncomfortable. Uncomfortable because the hierarchy was changing in real time. Uncomfortable because marketing narratives don't survive gyms like this. Uncomfortable because someone was about to lose more than minutes. And sitting on the far end of the bench, Angel Reese felt her phone buzz. She looked down, read the message, typed quickly, put it away. No one noticed. Not yet. But that text wasn't about practice. It was about her future. And in that moment, as Caitlin Clark held the entire gym in the palm of her hand, something much bigger than a drill quietly detonated. Because while everyone else was fighting to survive the practice, someone had just decided they might be done fighting for a spot at all. Whatever that text message was. It didn't just sit in Angel Reese's pocket. It sat in her chest. Heavy, distracting, dangerous. Because from that moment on, the practice wasn't just happening around her anymore. It was happening to her. The drill resumed, but the energy was wrong. The air felt thick, like the gym itself knew something had shifted. Caitlin Clark was still running the floor, still commanding gravity, still bending defenders toward her like a force of nature. But now, the tension wasn't only competitive, it was personal. Political career. The tension wasn't only competitive, it was personal. Political career. The coaches started mixing lineups aggressively. This wasn't accidental. This was evaluation at its most ruthless. Caitlin on one side, Paige on the other. Angel anchoring the paint with a rotating cast of guards who suddenly looked unsure where to stand, when to cut, when to speak. Every possession felt like a silent test, not just of skill, but of belonging. Angel fought harder than anyone. She battled for position, absorbed contact, hit the floor, popped back up. She did everything you're supposed to do when your back is against the wall. But every time she made a statement, Caitlin answered with something cleaner, quieter, more devastating. A no-look pass that turned into a layup, a skip pass that punished a double team, a pull-up from a range that made defenders hesitate before even stepping up. And hesitation at this level is death. That's when it started to feel intentional, not malicious, not cruel, just inevitable. Caitlin wasn't hunting Angel. She wasn't targeting anyone. She was simply playing at a level that exposed everyone else's limits. And some limits, once exposed, can't be unseen. Another player drifted to the sideline. No explanation. Another followed. The bench grew crowded. The court felt empty. The coaches exchanged looks. They didn't bother hiding anymore. This wasn't conditioning. This wasn't fatigue. This was psychological collapse. Angel noticed it too. She looked around and realized something terrifying. She was one of the last ones still fighting Caitlin head-on, still absorbing the pressure instead of escaping it, still standing in the storm instead of stepping out of it. And instead of pride, the realization brought anger. Because fighting alone feels a lot like being set up, she demanded the ball again, backed her defender down, scored through contact. No celebration, just a stare toward the sideline, toward the coaches, toward the people making decisions that would ripple through the next decade of her career. That's when the second twist hit. A coach blew the whistle early, too early. The drill stopped mid-flow, not at a natural break, not after a mistake, right after Caitlin created another open shot for a teammate. The timing was impossible to ignore. Players froze. Caitlin looked over, confused for the first time all day. Paige raised an eyebrow. Angel straightened up, instantly alert. The head coach gathered the group tightly. Voices were low, clipped, controlled. No cameras, no media, just tension. Words like balance, sustainability, chemistry. Words that sound neutral but land like accusations. When you know who they're aimed at, then came the phrase that changed the temperature of the room. Rotations will reflect roles. Roles, not performance, not production. Roles. Everyone knew what that meant. Starters, bench, hierarchy, future planning. And suddenly the text message in Angel's pocket made sense in a way that turned her stomach. Because this wasn't just about Caitlin being unstoppable. This was about Team USA deciding who they were willing to build around and who they weren't. Practice resumed, but the damage was done. Caitlin still played with precision, but now there was restraint. Paige adjusted seamlessly, filling gaps, calming possessions. Angel hesitated, just once. A half-second pause before sealing her defender. A glance toward the sideline instead of the rim. And at this level, that's all it takes. After the final whistle, players scattered quietly. No jokes, no laughs, no shared exhaustion. The locker room buzzed, but not with celebration. With whispers, with phones lighting up, with agents and advisors circling like sharks that smell uncertainty. Angel sat alone, rereading the message she'd tried to ignore. Conversations are happening. You need to be ready. Ready for what? A reduced role, a bench label, a future where she's no longer part of the core narrative, where Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers are the headline, and everyone else becomes interchangeable. Across the room, Caitlin unlaced her shoes calmly, unaware or pretending to be of the storm she had just triggered. Paige stretched quietly, sensing something was off but not yet knowing how deep it went. And in that silence, one truth became unavoidable. This practice didn't just reveal who was dominant, it exposed who was replaceable. And within the next 24 hours, that reality was about to explode into public view, dragging Team USA, the WNBA, and three of the biggest names in basketball straight into a media firestorm nobody could control. By the time the sun came up the next morning, the practice itself barely mattered anymore. What mattered was what leaked. And once it started, there was no stopping it. It began with a single clip, grainy, cropped, just Caitlin Clark pulling up from absurd range, while a defender hesitated half a second too long. No context, no audio, just dominance. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, captioned with 3 words that detonated the internet. Team USA broken. Then came the whispers. Anonymous accounts claiming players walked off. Insider threads hinting that roles were already decided. Podcasts rushing emergency episodes before breakfast. And suddenly, the narrative wasn't about preparation or chemistry. It was about hierarchy, about favoritism, about who the system bends for and who gets bent by it. Caitlin Clark became the center of a storm she never asked for but could no longer escape. To her supporters, this was validation, proof that the game bows to greatness. They flooded timelines with clips, stats, receipts from years of doubt. She warned y'all, this is what inevitability looks like. Build the team around her or lose. On the other side, the backlash hit just as hard. Former players, media personalities, verified voices who had waited for this moment. One practice doesn't make a team. Basketball isn't a solo act. Dominance without empathy destroys locker rooms. The word toxic started appearing in places it had never touched. Her name before. And then Angel Reese's name got dragged into it. Screenshots surfaced, freeze frames of her on the bench, slow motion replays of her glancing toward the sideline. Narratives formed instantly, violently. She couldn't handle it. She was exposed. This is why she's mad. None of it confirmed, none of it fair, all of it viral. Angel woke up to thousands of notifications and a phone that felt heavier than any defender she'd ever battled. Praise mixed with ridicule, support drowned by speculation, every past quote every rivalry reignited. She hadn't said a word, but the internet spoke for her anyway. Team USA tried to contain it, a bland statement about competitive practices and healthy intensity. It landed like gasoline on a fire. Fans demanded clarity, media demanded accountability. Kathy Engelbert's name trended alongside Caitlin's, as if league politics themselves were laced into that one practice. Inside the facility, the fallout was worse. Players walked into breakfast avoiding eye contact. Conversations stopped when certain people approached. Laughter felt inappropriate. Trust felt fragile. Coaches confiscated phones during meetings. But it didn't matter. Everyone already knew. The outside noise had breached the walls. Angel sat through film review, barely hearing a word. Every clip of Caitlin creating space felt like a reminder, not of failure but of positioning. Who the system amplifies, who it asks to adapt. Paige noticed it too, glancing between them. Caught in the middle of something bigger than basketball. Caitlin, for her part, stayed silent. No tweets, no likes, no statements. Just work. That silence became its own controversy. She doesn't care. She knows she's untouchable. This is what happens when the league crowns someone too early. The more she said nothing, the louder everyone else got. Then the breaking headline dropped. Sources, internal tension, growing at Team USA camp after unbalanced practice. That word unbalanced changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't about one player being great. It was about whether greatness itself had become a liability. Debate shows framed it as a moral question. Should Team USA prioritize harmony over dominance? Is winning enough if it fractures the room? Is Caitlin Clark too powerful for a system built on equality? Angel's camp issued a carefully worded statement about commitment and focus, but the damage was already done. Every reporter wanted her reaction. Every question circled back to Caitlin. 2 roles, 2 respect, and every non-answer became an answer anyway. That afternoon, the league office reportedly made calls. Sponsors checked sentiment. USA basketball executives huddled behind closed doors. This wasn't just optics anymore. This was about control, about whether the narrative could be steered back or whether it had already slipped by nightfall. One thing was clear. This practice hadn't just gone wrong. It had cracked something open, and with cameras coming, selections looming, and egos colliding under Olympic pressure, the fallout was no longer theoretical. The next move by Caitlin, by Angel, by Team USA would decide whether this became a turning point, or the beginning of a full-scale implosion. By the time the doors closed for the final meeting of the night, everyone inside that room understood one terrifying truth. This was no longer just about basketball. The head coach stood at the front, arms crossed, eyes scanning faces that no longer felt like teammates but like fault lines waiting to split. Phones were gone, cameras locked out, no leaks allowed. This was supposed to be the reset, the moment to pull everything back from the edge, but the air was heavy, suffocating. To pull everything back from the edge, but the air was heavy, suffocating. Caitlin Clark sat alone on one side of the room, jaw tight, unreadable. Angel Reese sat across from her, arms folded, expression controlled, but burning underneath. Paige Bucher sat between worlds, watching, calculating, sensing that, whatever happened next would change the future of this team forever. The coach didn't waste time. What happened in that practice? She said, voice sharp, has consequences. Every head lifted. Not just public consequences. Internal ones. A folder hit the table. Thick official. The kind that never brings good news. Inside were evaluation notes. Not just skill grades, psychological profiles. Leadership assessments. Stress responses. Anonymous feedback from staff, trainers, assistants, people whose opinions quietly shape Olympic rosters. And one page stopped the room cold. Observed effect. Performance dominance creating emotional withdrawal among multiple players. Eyes flicked fast and nervous. This wasn't framed as praise. It was framed as a problem. The coach looked directly at Caitlin. You did nothing wrong on the court, she said, but we need to talk about impact. Impact. That word hit harder than any criticism. Angel shifted in her chair. Paige inhaled slowly. Caitlin didn't blink. Before anyone could respond, the door opened. USA basketball executive. Not scheduled, not announced. That's when panic really set in. We need to address something immediately, he said. This cannot wait. He dropped the bomb without softening it. There is internal discussion about redefining on-court roles moving forward. Silence, not redefining minutes, not rotations, roles, translation, power. The implication was clear. If one player's dominance threatened unity, the system would intervene. Adjust usage, shift responsibilities. Even if it meant limiting the very thing that made them special. Caitlin finally spoke. Her voice was calm but sharp enough to cut glass. So what are you saying? That I should be less effective? No one answered. Angel's head snapped up. Or are you saying, Caitlin continued, that being great is now a liability? The room froze. This wasn't ego. This was existential. Because if excellence itself became negotiable, then everything changed. What does Team USA stand for? Meritor management. Angel stood. You don't get to put this on her alone, she said, voice steady but furious underneath. This pressure didn't start in that practice. It's been building. Media, fans, league narratives. Y'all created this environment. That wasn't in the script, Paige stood to. If we're talking about impact, she added, then let's talk about accountability. Because this team isn't fragile, it's stressed. And stress exposes cracks, it doesn't create them. The executive exchanged a glance with the coach. This meeting was going off the rails. That's when the real twist hit. The executive cleared his throat. There's another option being discussed. Everyone leaned in. A leadership restructure, not captains, not titles, shared authority. A way to dilute influence without calling it punishment, a way to control the narrative while pretending it was unity. Caitlin saw it instantly. Angel did. Paige felt it in her chest. This wasn't compromise. It was containment. Caitlin stood slowly. If the solution to pressure is asking players to shrink, she said, then you're preparing to lose. No shouting, no theatrics, just truth. She grabbed her bag. I came here to win, she added, not to be managed. Gasps rippled. Angel turned to her. Don't do this, she said quietly. Caitlin met her eyes. I'm not quitting, she replied. I'm choosing. The door closed behind her. Final. Inside that room. No one moved, because they all understood what just happened. Team USA hadn't lost a practice. They might have just lost control of the future. And with cameras coming, decisions looming, and the biggest name in the sport walking away from the table, not the team, but the system, one question now hovered over everything. What happens if Caitlin Clark stops playing by their rules? Because if she does, the next chapter won't just shock women's basketball, it might tear it apart. This story isn't just about Caitlin Clark or one chaotic Team USA practice gone wrong. It's about power, pressure, and what happens when greatness refuses to shrink. If you felt your heart racing through that last moment, that's exactly why this matters. Because the decisions made behind closed doors will shape the future of women's basketball for years. And the next chapter is already forming. Now it's your turn to speak. Do you believe Team USA should protect unity at any cost? Or should excellence be non-negotiable? Should stars be managed or unleashed? Drop your take in the comments, because this debate is exploding across locker rooms, front offices, and social media feeds. If you want the real story behind the leaks, the politics, and the power moves nobody wants on record, hit subscribe. If you think Caitlin walking away just changed everything, smash like. And if you're ready for what happens when this team takes the floor again, stay here. Because what comes next won't be scripted, it'll be exposed live, under lights. With reputations, careers, and legacies on the line. This isn't over, it's only getting louder. And the fallout is coming fast. Don't blink. Don't miss.